Uncle Buck arrived in August 1989 and handed John Candy a role that felt like it had been written with only him in mind. The film brought together a cast that scattered into some of the most unexpected places imaginable once it was over. Here is where life took them. Number 1. John Candy as Buck Russell, the well-meaning, chaotic, completely unprepared uncle who somehow holds everything together through sheer warmth alone. John was 38 when the film released, already one of the most beloved comedic talents in North America. He had married Rosemary Hobor in 1979 after the two met on a blind date years earlier, and they had 2 children together, Jennifer and Christopher. He would have turned 75 in 2026, but the world lost him on March 4, 1994, at just 43 years old while filming Wagons East in Mexico. That remains one of the most painful early exits in the history of Hollywood comedy. In late 2025, a documentary about his life called John Candy, I Like Me, produced by Ryan Reynolds and Colin Hanks, premiered on Amazon Prime Video and brought his story to a generation that only knew him through the films he left behind. Number 2. Macaulay Culkin as Miles Russell, the youngest of the 3 kids, who delivers some of his lines to Buck with a deadpan confidence that is almost unsettling for an 8-year-old. He was just 8 during filming. The chemistry he created with Candy in that doorway scene showed something that could not be coached. And within 2 years, Home Alone had turned him into the most famous child actor on the planet. He is 45 today. His personal life has gone through considerable change over the decades. A brief marriage to Rachel Miner ended in 2002, and a long relationship with Mila Kunis wound down in 2011. He has been with actress Brenda Song since 2017. The two are engaged, and they have 2 sons together named Dakota and Carson. In 2024, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a formal recognition of a career that started before most children learned to read. Number 3. Laurie Metcalf as Marcy Dahlgren Frost, the aggressively friendly neighbor who shows up with a warmth so relentless, it borders on unsettling. She was 34 during production and is 70 today. The character exists only briefly, but Laurie packed a specific kind of cheerful obliviousness into every moment that made it memorable. Her personal life has included 2 marriages. The first, to actor Jeff Perry through the 1980s, produced a daughter named Zoe Perry, who followed her mother into acting. Her second marriage to Matt Roth from 2005 to 2014 brought 3 more children. The career she has built since this film is the kind that fills award shelves. Years as a core cast member on The Conners have kept her on television consistently, and her 2024 Broadway performance in 3 Tall Women drew the kind of critical attention that reminded everyone she operates at the highest level across every medium she enters. Number 4. Gaby Hoffmann as Maisie Russell, the youngest of the 3 children, who greets Buck at the door with a philosophical curiosity that makes the scene feel more like an interrogation than a welcome. She was only 7 years old during filming. That scene alone, with her quiet, probing questions and total seriousness, holds up as one of the sweetest moments in the entire film. Gaby is 44 today. She made a deliberate choice during her teenage years to step back from the industry entirely, giving herself space outside of cameras and sets before returning as an adult on completely her own terms. When she did return, the work was different in every way. An Emmy nomination for Transparent and a recurring role in Girls established her in prestige television. And in 2024, she starred opposite Benedict Cumberbatch in the Netflix limited series Eric. She is in a long-term relationship with cinematographer Chris Dapkins, and the two have a daughter named Rosemary, born in 2014. Number 5. Jay Underwood as Bug, the boyfriend Tia is sneaking around with, the one Buck sizes up in about 4 seconds and decides he wants absolutely no part of. At 21 during filming, he played that particular brand of teenage overconfidence convincingly enough that Buck's instincts about him feel completely justified. Jay is 57 today. He married Julie Underwood in 1993, and they have built a life together that took a direction almost no one from the Uncle Buck set would have anticipated. Sometime through the 1990s, a different calling took over entirely, and today, he serves as senior pastor at First Baptist Church of Weaverville in California. The acting career has not disappeared completely since he occasionally takes roles in faith-based projects, but the Hollywood chapter is largely behind him. The distance between Bug and the pulpit is about as wide as a career pivot can get. Number 6. Amy Madigan as Chanice Kobolowski, the woman who has been waiting long enough for Buck to get his life in order that her patience has become its own kind of character trait. She brought enough genuine frustration and warmth to the role that audiences rooted for them, even while understanding exactly why she was fed up. Amy was 38 during production and is 75 today. Her personal life has been one of the more quietly enduring stories in the industry. She married actor Ed Harris in 1983, 6 years before this film even shot, and they are still together today across more than 4 decades of marriage, raising a daughter named Lily Dolores Harris along the way. She has kept a steady screen presence throughout, with a 2024 appearance in The Desperate Hour, and a recurring role in Penny Dreadful, City of Angels among her recent credits. She and Harris also regularly collaborate on stage work. Number 7. Garrett M. Brown as Bob Russell, the father who hands 3 children over to the least qualified person in the family and drives away hoping for the best. He was 40 during filming and is 77 today. The role is relatively brief, but the mixture of guilt and desperation he brings to that handoff moment makes it land exactly right. His career since has accumulated steadily across television and film over the decades, with roles in Sisters, Roswell, and as the father in 2010's Kick-Ass, sitting among his more recognizable credits. In 2024, he moved into entirely new territory, releasing a debut novel called Tin Sea, a shift that runs alongside continued work in independent theater and visual arts. He went through a divorce at some point and has 1 daughter, though the details of his personal life have otherwise stayed well out of the public conversation across the years since this film came out. Number 8. Elaine Bromka as Cindy Russell, the mother who leaves for a family emergency and trusts Buck with her 3 children in one of the most desperate acts of faith in 1980s cinema. She was 39 during production and is 76 today. The role is not large, but the weight of that opening handoff sits entirely on her shoulders, and she makes every second of worry feel earned. Away from Uncle Buck, she built a remarkably varied career across stage and screen. An Emmy Award win stands among her professional highlights, and in recent years she has toured extensively with a one-woman show called Tea for Three, Lady Bird, Pat and Betty, in which she portrays 3 former First Ladies across a single performance. She has been married to Frederick Peter Phillips since 1976, and they have 2 children, making theirs one of the longer quiet partnerships in the industry. Number 9. Brian Tarantina as E. Roger Coswell, the smooth-talking, slicked-back operator who thinks he has Buck figured out within about 30 seconds of meeting him, and is completely wrong. He was 30 during filming. The years that followed brought him a steady run of character work across television and film, and by the time he landed the recurring role of Jackie the MC on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, he had found the kind of part that showcases exactly what a performer like him can do. He would have been 67 in 2026, but Brian Tarantina passed away on November 2nd, 2019, at 60 years old. The New York City Medical Examiner ruled the cause an accidental overdose involving multiple substances. He never married, but left behind a son named Sean, and a body of work that his Maisel castmates remembered warmly and publicly in the days following his passing. Number 10. Mike Starr as Pooter the Clown, who arrives at a birthday party and ends up in a standoff with Buck that escalates well past anything a children's entertainer should ever have to deal with. Mike was 39 at the time of filming and is 75 today. That scene works as well as it does because he plays it completely straight, which is exactly the right call. He married Joanne Starr in 1975, and they have raised 3 children together across a marriage now past the 50-year mark. The roles that followed Uncle Buck leaned into a similar toughness, and with parts in Goodfellas and Dumb and Dumber, becoming the titles most associated with his name over the decades since. More than 190 screen credits have accumulated across his career, and he continues to pick up television guest appearances while remaining a regular presence at fan conventions. Number 11. Suzanne Shepard as Mrs. Hogarth, the school vice principal who sits across from Buck during a parent meeting and watches the conversation go somewhere she clearly never anticipated. She was 54 during production. Her film career included roles in Goodfellas and The Sopranos, each of which put her in front of much larger audiences than the Uncle Buck scene alone would have reached. Alongside her screen work, she spent over 4 decades running an acting studio in New York, teaching a craft she had spent her entire life practicing. She passed away on November 17, 2023, at 89 years old, with her final film credit arriving that same year in a project called The Performance. She had been married twice, first to David Shepard through the 1960s, with whom she had 2 children, and later to Carol Calkins from 1996 until his death in 2006. She would have turned 91 in 2026. Number 12. Dennis Cockrum as Pal, Buck's friend who occupies a supporting role in the story, but represents the world Buck comes from before the Russell household rearranges his priorities entirely. He was 34 during filming and is 71 today. The post-Uncle Buck chapter of his career built slowly and consistently, with his most recognized television role coming as Terry Milkovich in Shameless, a show that ran long enough to introduce him to a substantial new audience well removed from the 1989 film. He has been a longtime ensemble member at the American Blues Theater in Chicago and has worked as a guest lecturer and director for theater programs alongside his screen work. His personal life has stayed almost entirely out of the public record, with no widely documented relationships or marriages ever surfacing across the decades since the film came out. Number 13. William Wyndham as Mr. Hatfield, the neighbor who interacts with Buck only through offense and a considerable amount of mutual suspicion, providing his voice but never his face to the role. He was 65 at the time of filming, already carrying an Emmy win for My World and Welcome to It, and a beloved long-running role as Dr. Seth Hazlitt on Murder, She Wrote. He would have turned 102 in 2026, but William Wyndham passed away on August 16, 2012, at 88 years old. His romantic life was eventful across the decades. He married 5 times in total, with his final marriage to writer Patricia Veronica Tunder in 1975 lasting 36 years until his death. He is survived by 6 children. His final acting credit arrived in 2005 before he stepped back from the screen entirely, closing out a career that had run for more than half a century. Number 14. Louisa Kelly as Tia Russell, the older daughter at the center of the film's emotional core, the one whose gradual shift toward Buck gives the whole story whatever heart it carries. She was 16 during filming and is 54 today. Tia starts the film with walls built high enough that Buck barely registers as a person to her. And watching those walls come down is what the movie is actually about underneath all the comedy. Television kept her busy for years after, most notably across the long run of Yes, Dear. Then in 2022, she appeared in Top Gun, Maverick as Sarah Kazansky, Iceman's wife, stepping into one of the biggest films of that year and reaching an audience far larger than almost anything in her career before it. Music has run alongside the acting throughout. She has released multiple albums including Color of Your Heart, a side of her career that exists entirely separately from the screen work. She married attorney and media executive James Pitaro in May 1997, and they have 2 children together.